Okay, so this video explains equivalent fractions, and equivalent fractions have the same value but look different. And to give an example of that, we could have something like 2/3 is equal to 20 over 30. And all we've done there is that we have multiplied numerator and denominator by 10. And that leads me on to my next point, is that when you multiply numerator and denominator by the same number, we create an equivalent fraction. Just a quick note on division. We would never divide numerator and denominator to create another fraction. So for example, take 2/3, we would never divide by 5 to do this. Okay, so a good example of division would be 20 over 30 divide by the highest common factor. The highest common factor is a number which is the highest, which doesn't leave a remainder on division. So this gives 2/3. Okay, so let's look at some examples. When we simplify fractions, we get equivalent fractions. So let's look at some examples. 2/3, we can multiply odd by any number, let's say 3, to get an equivalent fraction, which would be 2 times 3 is 6, 3 3s and 9. Okay, so we can multiply again by any number to get an equivalent fraction. So 5 6s are 30, 5 9s are 45. And just a quick note on division. So we got 30 over 45. We can divide by the highest common factor of 30 plus 45, which is 15, to give 2 over 3. And that takes us back to our original. We can look at maybe more complicated ones like 100 over 500. So we can divide any factor into those, but they need to be the same. That's a really important point. They need to be the same. So if we divide 10, we get 10 over 50. Then we can divide by another 10. To get 1 over 5. And if we combine the two divisions, 10 times 10 is 100. We can see that 100 is the highest common factor of 100 and 500. Okay, so let's look at 4 examples, and we'll do a difficult one, and then we'll have a look at the exercise. Okay, so let's find the missing value. That 1, this time let's do 20. Let's do 3. Let's do 4 over 7 equals over 21. And let's do okay, off you go. Pause the video and see if you can find the missing values. Okay, so hopefully you've done that now. So I'm going to draw in my little arrows. So what do we multiply 3 by to get to 9? Multiply by 3. 3 times what gives 3? What is 3 times 3 times 1? The same goes here. Now we can either look at what we multiply 1 by to get to 5, and then say what do we multiply 5 by to get to 20? Well, the answer is 4. Or we could look at this the other way around. We can say what do we divide 5 by to get to 1? When we divide by 5, and we divide by 5 here. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay, a really important point to make is that multiplication is the inverse of division, and division is the inverse of multiplication. They are inverse operations. We would never add or subtract with equivalent fractions. That's a really important point, which I think is worth noting down. Never add or subtract. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. So, for example here, 1 multiplied by 3, it gives 3. So the inverse then, 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay, so let's use the division here. What do we divide 21 by to get to 7? Well, we divide by 7. We divide by 3. Sorry. And what do we divide 3 by to get to 4? And that is 12. Okay, we can use the division operation again here. Or you can use the multiplication, whichever you find easier. Well, what do we divide to get from 20 to 2? That is 10. So we can divide 30 by 10 to get to 3. Okay, so hopefully now you should be a little bit more confident on equivalent fractions. Let's do a more complicated example. So let's say that 2 over is equal to 4 over 6, which is equal to 40 over blank, which is equal to 200 over blank. Okay, see if you can have a go at doing these and pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you've done these now, and this is a really good visualization of equivalent fractions. They have the equality sign. They must be equal, but they look different. And just to outline that, we move from equivalent fractions by multiplying or dividing the numerator and the denominator. So I'm choosing to go backwards. So what do we divide? Cancel shutdown. What do we divide 200 by to get to 40? Well, I think we definitely divide by 5. So here we divide by 5 again. Okay, so we don't know what this value is. Okay, what do we do to get from 40 to 4? We divide by 10. So we must divide by 10 here. Okay, so what do we divide by to get from 4 to 2? We divide by 2. Okay, so we must divide by 2 here. Well, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now we can use our inverse operation and say, well, 6 multiplied by 10 is 60, and 60 divided by 10 is 6. And the same here. 60 multiplied by 5 is 300, and 300 divided by 5 is 60. Okay, so let's have a look at some problems. Now, I will do some examples, so just choosing them randomly. I'll do the first one. I will do this one, and I will do this one. Okay, so let's draw the arrows in first. So 2 times what gives 8? Well, I'm going to say 2 times 4 gives 8. 4 times what gives 20? Well, that must be 5. And let's double check. 2 4s are 8. 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. Okay, 10 times what gives 40? Well, I'm going to say that's going to be multiplied by 4. So 4 times what gives 20? That must be 5. Okay, and finally the last one. 9 times what gives 27? Well, I'm going to say 9 times 3 is 27. And we can think of this as multiplied by 3. 3 times what gives 12, which is 4. Okay, so pause the video and do the rest of the questions. Okay, so hopefully you've done that now. And I'm just going to choose one to go over. So let's choose this one here. Okay, so 4 times what gives 16? Well, that's definitely 4. We need to multiply by 4 here. So we'll do the opposite. 24 is 4 times something. Well, that something is going to be 6. Okay, so hopefully you're more comfortable with equivalent fractions. The next video is also dealing with equivalent fractions, and that is the simplification of fractions.